giving you guys my best tips when it comes to crystal technology in Rise of Kingdoms. As you guys know, a couple of months ago, crystal technology actually changed in Rise of Kingdoms, and since then the developers have gone back and tweaked it even farther, especially near the end of the crystal tech tree. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my best tips when it comes to the unlock and upgrade order for crystal tech. This is going to get you started on the right path in your KVK, whether you're a free-to-play player, low spender, or a whale. Because let's be honest, everyone talks about the best commanders and the best equipment and get these armaments and get these inscriptions, and really that all is extremely important, but none of it really matters if you're not going to have any crystal tech. You're still going to get stomped out. So this is very important, and if you're a new player, this might be the first time that you actually look at crystal tech because you're getting prepared for your upcoming season of conquest. So today let's take a deep dive into crystal technology, but first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. I'm feeling cozy today. I've got my hot chocolate in the Slytherin mug like a typical millennial. This is organic hot chocolate from Trader Joe's, and it's not very good. I don't care what anybody says, organic is not always better. I didn't even buy it because it was organic, it just so happens to be so. Anyway, that's not the point of the video. As you guys know, I am a sponsored partner created with Rise of Kingdoms, so if you want more raw content, consider subscribing down below and dropping a thumbs up while you're down there. It actually helps out the channel a ton. Now if you guys watch some of my recent videos, you know that we just landed in the Song of Troy KVK, and this is what reminded me that I haven't really talked about crystal tech in a while. Now I made a video sort of about my philosophy surrounding crystal tech back in October, but I haven't actually given you a guide on crystal tech since April of 2024, which is insane. Time is literally flying. But anyway, that's what inspired this video. As I was going through and doing the typical upgrading your crystal mine, upgrading your research center, and upgrading the prerequisites and everything like that, I was like, man, I really should make a video talking about this and bringing everybody up to speed in 2025 and going into 2026. And if I was a smart man, I would have recorded me actually going through and upgrading these things, but I'm actually not very smart, as you guys know. So we're going to be using Specco's crystal tech simulator. Now as you guys know, this tool was developed by the same person who makes the rock battle simulator. I have no affiliation with that project, but I will link it down below in case you guys want to give this a try. But this is a great tool if you guys want to just sort of simulate the progression that you could possibly make with a certain number of crystals, let's say at the start of KVK, or if you're trying to calculate how many barbarians you're going to have to kill before a pass opening to get enough crystals to upgrade certain things that you might need. This is a great tool to test those things without actually wasting your time first. Now the first things we have to talk about, of course, are upgrading your crystal mine and your crystal research center. Now I always upgrade these to level 25 on day one, but I buy the pop-up bundles in Rise of Kingdoms, and so if you're a free-to-play player, that might change for you, because if we take a look at the crystal mine here, you'll see that as you level this thing up, you're going to increase the maximum crystals that you can actually hold in the mine, and also the hourly crystal production. And I would say of the two, that is like mandatory to get to level 25. The crystal mine definitely takes priority. Why is that? Well, if we take a look at the crystal research center, you'll notice that going from level 24 to 25 only reduces the research cost by 0.5%. 0.5% reduction is an insanely small amount. If we take a look at something like, I don't know, mounted combat technique 1 to 2, okay, this is going to cost 160,000 crystals. That means 0.5% is 800 crystals. So you can literally just kill one barbarian and get more than 800 crystals, depending on where the rest of your crystal tech actually is here. Okay, so eventually this does become a bottleneck, and later in KVK you will want to have it level 25, but on day one it is not necessary to get it to 25. I would get it as high as you can. Realistically, I mean, it does give you a reduction the more that you go through this. I would aim for like level 23 or 24, because if we jump into the simulator here, you'll see that if we're upgrading the crystal research center, you can see the cost for the next upgrade down here, right? And so it's pretty cheap in the first earlier levels, but once you get up to level like 20, now we're talking 330,000, and 23 to 24 is 420,000. 420, that's crazy. And then 24 to 25 is 450,000. It's really expensive in the earlier portion of KVK. Later down the line, again, you might need that, but I mean, man, if you're saving only a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand crystals every single time, how many researches do you have to do in order to save 450,000 crystals for that last upgrade level? It's a lot, right? It's a lot. So just keep that in mind. Again, you will eventually want to get it there, but it's not necessarily like, okay, you must do this on day one, otherwise you're totally ruining your KVK. Like, that's a bit hyperbolic. Okay, let's just keep that in mind. Okay, so now that we've gotten the buildings out of the way, let's talk about some of the individual pieces of technology that that you want to focus on here. Your first goal when you land in kvk should be getting cutting corners 1 and cutting corners 2 all the way up to max. That is my personal opinion. That is what I do every single time, and the reason for this is because this actually does give you a meaningful reduction in the amount of crystals that you're spending, right? So the earlier on you do this, the more future research is going to be reduced by these percentages. Okay, so cutting corners 1 is maximum of 5%, cutting corners 2 is 15%, for a total of a 20% crystal reduction. So those should be the first things that we focus on, and in order to do that, there's going to be some prerequisites. Okay, as you can see here, we can't upgrade this yet, and now that the developers have changed crystal tech and divided a lot of these stats up, you know, the march speed is divided up now between the different troop types, you actually can take different pathways to cutting corners 1 and 2, and really throughout the entirety of the crystal tech tree. So I'm going to share with you guys what I upgrade, but just keep in mind that you should be prioritizing the troop type that you have the strongest army and equipment for. Okay, so for me, my strongest armies typically are my infantry armies. I have the best armaments, inscriptions, equipment, and commanders for infantry, so I'm going to be prioritizing infantry throughout this crystal tech tree. But for you, if you're running a majority archers or a majority cavalry or whatever the case might be, then go for those troop types. Same thing with ranged. If you're a ranged player, all you need is improved projectiles in the bottom part of this tree here. If you're only running one of each troop type and all 3 of your different armies are roughly the same power level, I would say go for archers. Okay, Emperor Chin is the strongest commander in the game. He's probably going to get you the most amount of kill points, and so having him be as strong as possible is very valuable. That piece of advice, of course, will probably change over the next 6 to 12 months depending on what commanders come into Rise of Kingdoms in the future, and if Emperor Chin continues to be the best commander in the game. But at the time of recording this, if you're only going to pick one and all of your armies are of equal strength, go with archers. Okay, not only for that, but also because you get the march speed here, which is super important for archers. All right, so that being said, for me, I'm going to show you guys infantry. All right, the first thing you want to do is get quench blades up to 3. This way you can bring swift marching up to 3 as well. Then you get your hands on call to arms. Now we're going to talk about call to arms in just a minute, okay, very shortly, but this is one of the most important pieces of technology in the entire crystal tech tree, and that's why I'm really happy that they moved it to the front of the crystal tech tree, because now everybody can get their hands on this. But for right now, we're just going to leave it at 1. Okay, you're just going to unlock it so you can progress to cutting corners 1. At this point, you're going to bring this all the way up to 5, and that's going to get you the maximum crystal cost reduction. Okay, so keep in mind in the top right, you'll see how many crystals I'm actually spending and how many crystals I'm actually saving. Okay, now that cutting corners is up to 5, we're going to try to progress farther into the tree, but one of the prerequisites to that is getting the earlier tech at least up to 5 here. All right, so we're going to get these up to 5. The reason we didn't just start off with just getting these to 5 is because now we've got cutting corners, so it's literally cheaper to wait. And now we return back to call to arms. Okay, and like I said, I want to just dive deep into this a little bit. Call to arms is literally an increase to the unit capacity of all of your armies, all your troop types, everything. Okay, so getting this all the way up to 10 is critical because it gives you 15% unit capacity, and the more troops that you have in the battlefield, the harder your attacks are going to hit, the more damage you're going to deal with active skills, but also the more units you have on the field, which means if they die, the more units you have go to the hospital. Okay, and this is one of the biggest changes about the new crystal tech tree that a lot of people were not prepared for. They didn't realize how big their hospital bills were going to be and how costly the earlier zones would be in kvk. All right, the first pass in the first zone that you fight, a lot of people, especially free-to-play players and low spenders, aren't used to running around with super high troop capacity, so just keep that in mind. You still have to play very careful here. All right, now that we've gotten swift marching 1 up to 5, we can actually bring call to arms 1 all the way up to 8. This is going to give you 8% unit capacity. This is good for, again, PvP and also PvE, right? Having more troops fighting barbs is really nice. You're going to deal more damage to them, especially the higher level ones. Once we have this up to 8, we're going to bring cultural exchange up to 5. From here, we unlock call to arms 2, which is another unit capacity crystal tech. This is very important. We will come back to this, but for now, we're just going to put it at 1 so we can bring cutting corners 2 all the way up to 10. Okay, so now we have spent nearly 10 million crystals. We've saved 713,000. From here, you can bring cultural exchange up to 7. You can bring barbarian bounties up to 7 as well. Then we're actually going to work on call to arms 2 before finishing off call to arms 1, and here's why. And you can do this on your own. Just pay attention to these little things. Okay, call to arms 2 at level 1 is 1% capacity. At level 2 is an increase of 3%. Okay, so the troop capacity is going up by 2% for 90,000 crystals. If we take a look at call to arms 1 at level 8, it's 8% 8%. At level 9 it's 11%. Okay, so we're getting a 3% increase for, let's see, 300,000 crystals. So I'm gonna take the 2% for 90 every day of the week. That's 45,000 crystals per troop percent. Okay, it's way cheaper to do this. So what we're gonna do is upgrade Call to Arms 2 for now up to level 5. I think that's a good place. Then we'll bring cultural exchange up to level 9 here, as well as barbarian bounties. Okay, now keep in mind things like barbarian bounties and Karaku reports, the amount of value you get out of this is going to depend on how many barbarians you're killing and also how soon you do the trial of Kokarok. Then you could bring Call to Arms 2 up to level 8, and again just keep an eye on the total number of crystals I'm spending. So actual amount was 12.4 million. I've saved 1.8 million. Okay, then from here, if we want to continue to improve things like cultural exchange, which gives you more favor and crystals from your bastions, then we actually have to improve some of the quench blades too. Okay, so this is the second level of attack for your different troop types. So let's bring this all the way up to level 5. Okay, so now we've got another 7.5% infantry attack. From there we can come back and upgrade cultural exchange to 12, and then we can do the same for barbarian bounties. And from here, this is where you can start to work on Karaku reports. Again, if you want to put a couple of points in here a little bit earlier because you're going to do trial of Kokarok before you go to bed or something like that, you could do that as well. And then once we've got the PvE stuff down, we can come back and finish off Call to Arms 1, bring that up to 10, and Call to Arms 2, bring that up to 10 as well. Now here's where things change a little bit depending on if you are a free-to-play player, low spender, or a higher spender. If you are going to eventually get the expanded formation, so this is an additional army on the battlefield, then you are going to want to increase your cultural exchange all the way up to level 15. Same thing with barbarian bounties and Karaku reports. Okay, otherwise leaving it at 12 is actually pretty good value, honestly. I mean, unless you're going to be doing like insane barb chaining throughout the entirety of KVK or something like that, which many of you might be if you're free to play and you've got a lot of time to kill here. The benefit of leaving them at 12 earlier on in the KVK is that you are going to be limited on resources going into your first zone, right? And so you do want to have as many stats as possible for that first fight, and so there's a little bit of a balancing act there, right? You don't want to put too many crystals into PvE stuff and then you're short for when you come to the actual fighting. Now unfortunately, to move past the star metal shields here and get farther into the tree and grab things that we really care about, such as special concoctions, this is going to reduce your healing costs for tier 5 units, which is insane. Okay, this is definitely something you want to get. Getting there has a lot of bottlenecks. Okay, so let's just try to take the path of least resistance and only go through one of the troop types. Okay, so let's do star metal shields. This is defense for infantry, and then let's do swift marching, and then larger camps. Oh, we run into an actual bottleneck, level 8 for march speed. Okay, so you could rush the march speed, but understand that once you get this to level 4, you're going to hit a bottleneck anyway. Okay, and in fact, you're going to have to get star metal shields all the way up to level 10 if you want to get swift marching 2 as far as you need it to go. All right, so we get this to level 5, and then we bring this up, and then oh, we're stuck at level 7. Okay, you need star metal shields to level 10. So between these two, I would say the defense is more important than the march speed. So just do the defense first and then do the march speed after. That's how I would do it. From there, you can upgrade larger camps, and then special concoctions is going to require it be level 3. So let's go ahead and do that. And then from there, I would try to get special concoctions probably as high as you can get it, honestly. I mean, level 7 is going to require this be level 4, so boom, and then we bring this all the way up to level 9. Larger camps 5 is required, and this is where you need to actually upgrade your cultural exchange and things like that. Now the other thing to point out here is that if you did want to unlock the extra army here, this is where you see that bottleneck that I mentioned earlier. Larger camps has to be level 5, and we've got the level 15 bottleneck here for cultural exchange and things like that. Okay, so unfortunately, special concoctions to 10, I mean realistically that's super expensive anyway, so keep that in mind. You may actually just need to get more stats before you come back and do this, especially for your first zone fight. That's just not going to happen, right? Especially as free to play and low spend, unless you're crazy. Now once you put 3 points into health here for one of your troop types, you're going to notice that there is a bottleneck here. Level 8 swift marching requires this level 5, so you literally can't go any farther unless you actually upgrade emergency support to level 8, which is kind of unfortunate. Hospital capacity is fine, but I don't love it, especially because upgrading this is going to cost you a lot of crystals, right? And so it's at this point where you can start to think about like, okay, like, do I want to upgrade this and keep going and try to get as far as I can, or do you want to just go back and start to actually get stats for your other armies, right? And I think that this is the point where like, okay, you definitely should be getting more stats for your other armies if you're running multiple of them in the open field, right? So for me, I run 2 2 infantry, 2 cavalry, 1 archer. So for me, unfortunately, my archers are actually not going to get the priority here, although realistically I feel like my second cav march, and we've got fighting soon, so I'll know within like the next week or so, but really like my second cav march I feel like is not going to perform super well. So really, if I look at it as like, okay, I have 2 infantry, 1 archer, 1 cav, and then like half a cav, you know, I might actually just prefer to put points into archers because that's just how good Emperor Chin is. But either way, let's just use some logic and just assume that we're going to go through and put the points into cavalry for me, because that's what should ideally make the most sense. One thing I want to point out here is that for cavalry, you are going to get the ability to increase the march speed, but be very careful with this because cavalry units by default are faster than the other armies in the open field. They're definitely faster than infantry, and if you're running your Emperor Chin with Zhuge Liang or with YSG, that's going to be a pretty slow march as well, because YSG and Zhuge Liang don't have any march speed themselves. And so keep that in mind. If you upgrade the march speed a ton for your cavalry, they are going to outspeed the rest of your marches, and there's nothing worse than having your Hua Joan or your Hua Arthur or whatever kind of extend out into the enemy murder ball and just get crushed, right? And I think that's what happens a lot. This is kind of one of the cool things about them dividing up the march speed of the different troop types. You can kind of control the speed of all 5 of your armies in a way, and so I really just wanted to point that out and make sure you guys know, like, hey, don't push too much march speed for your calves if your other armies can't keep up. That's just my personal preference, but I think a lot of people benefit from playing like that. They want all 5 of their armies to go into battle together and come out of battle together, and it's just easier to control 5 at a time rather than trying to control 3 of your marches, and then your 2 calves you have to like micromanage and come, you know, it's just annoying. And then at this point, you know, when you're upgrading the attack versus defense versus the health of these different armies, right, what you really kind of want to do is just go for the one that gets you the most number of stat points for the amount of crystals that you're spending, right? So here we've got, you know, this next upgrade, this is already level 1, so bringing it from 1 to 2, I get 2% cav attack, or for 75,000 crystals I get 1% cav defense. Okay, so in this case it's the same value, right? This one's half the price, but it's half the number of stats. So really, do I care more about defense or do I care more about attack? In this case, most of the meta cav marches right now have a ton of attack already, and their equipment is mostly health, and so in that instance I would probably point you towards the defense point. But let's just quickly check over here. We'll see that we get 1 point of cav health, but it's 112.5k. all right, so clearly the best value here is the 1% cav defense, and then from there you can kind of go ahead and choose what you want, right? So just kind of just do that value proposition every time that you're going to upgrade the stats of your armies. Just check to be like, okay, is this the best number of stats and the best amount of stats I can get for the price right now based on what I have unlocked already? And that's going to get you pretty far into kvk. A couple of other things to note here. Some of the whales in your kingdom should be grabbing runecraft. This is tremendously useful. I mean, basically guaranteeing the best runes for your entire alliance every day is super valuable. So a few whales should have this. Not everybody needs this though. Not even all the spenders need this, to be completely honest with you, but some people should have it, especially if you're a big spender and somebody who is like, for example, a full-on siege player, right? They only ever need to focus on the bottom parts of this entire tech tree, and if they're spending on top of that, well then okay, they might as well grab runecraft, because then they can help everybody else, right? Like you might as well have those people do it. Those types of players are pretty rare though. Most people aren't siege mains and who are also like huge spenders, so just keep that in mind. Of course, do not unlock the extra troop dispatch if you are a free-to-play player or a low spender. Really, like the only people who should be getting this are people who can field a 6th march that has meta commanders, meta gear, meta armaments, meta inscriptions. Like this is so expensive, and you know, again, running 6 field armies, you have to consider like you're also going to have to spend more on your hospitals, right? So just keep that in mind. This is again only for the medium to high spenders, if not whales. Rapid retreat I feel like most people don't really use, honestly, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And then of course for the Giga Chad mega whales, you do want to max out the back part of the crystal tech tree here. Okay, obviously we have the archer expert, infantry cav, and siege expert. This is not only going to reduce the damage that you take from this troop type, but also the amount of damage you deal to that troop type. Okay, so the number one thing that you want to focus on here is archer expert. At least at the time of recording this is going to have your Emperor Chin deal more damage, and also the rest of your armies are going to deal more damage to that Emperor Chin. Okay, so this is like super critical. Beyond that, you could make the argument that the siege is very important here, especially if you're seeing the enemy use a lot of Gajamata with Cordoba. You're going to take a lot of splash damage from that AoE, right? So that's going to be nice. And also when you finally do break through their ball, you're going to melt down the siege, which is like what a lot of people really like to do. That's like half the reason people even enjoy pushing with murder balls, is to take down the towers. And then of course surprise strike is kind of how the whales can tip the balance in your favor when it comes to actually winning the KVK. So this is also, again, not negotiable. 10% more damage to rallied armies and garrisons. You need this if you're a whale. Like, this is like the end goal for a reason. This is the last thing in the tree for a reason. You definitely need this. A couple of other things I just want to mention here. As I was recording the video, as you can see, I do have my units auto barbing. This is tremendously helpful in KVK because, as you guys know, if you have the 30-day gem supply, you get the auto peacekeeping feature. And what this is going to do is spend your action points automatically and have them go around the map and kill barbs for you. Now, this is not the most efficient way to do this, but if you're a busy guy and you're at work and you've got things to do and you can't just sit there and chain all day, like most of us can't, right? Most of us have stuff going on. This is a great way to have your armies get you crystals. And not only that, but it's going to get you some honor as well. I'm obviously slacking here. And not only will you get the crystals, but you're going to get a ton of resources from doing this as well. So let's just pop all these open. You're going to get gems for this as well, which is really quite nice. Of course, you need to actually have the AP to do this. Luckily for me, I've got a tremendous amount. When it comes to bastions, of course, do not do any of the ones that require you donate materials for your equipment. That makes no sense. The only exception is animal bones. I shouldn't have to tell you this, but that's the only one that you should actually be doing there. If you can line up the troop training with other things like events, for example, or whatever the case might be, then do the troop training ones. This gives you a tremendous amount of crystals, and you also get the Kahar bone whistle plus a ton of favor. You shouldn't do these every time just because that's going to be a lot of speed ups, but every once in a while doing these is great. Of course, before you do your 15 bastions on that first day, try to get the tech as far as possible when it comes to actually doing those bastions, right? So cultural exchange, for example, like you're going to want to get this pretty far. Same thing with barbarian bounties. If you're doing any of the quests that have you kill barbarians, you're going to want to just get more crystals for those, right? So do as much of your tech first as you can on day one, and then go in and actually do all that stuff. And then don't forget to actually use your Kahar bone whistles when you go into your first zone fighting. This is going to give you a ton of different crystals that you can use to push those last few stat points that you're going to need when you go into battle. And finally, if you are a spender, obviously the pop-up bundles are the best value here. Of course, outside of the crystal mine work speed, this is $5. It gets you the instant research feature, and you get 60,000 crystals every single day. Careful with the instant research feature because it will burn through your speed ups, and I know a lot of people think they have a ton, but it's less than you might realize, so be very careful with that. I actually didn't even use the instant research feature this time around because I wanted to play it safe. I know we had like the one man's trash is another man's treasure event, and like you burn through the speed ups, okay? So just be very careful there. But that $5 is the best $5 you will spend all of KVK, besides maybe the 30-day gem supply, of course. And beyond the pop-ups, your crystal mine of course also has the crystal quest, and this is a $15 upgrade, but this is going to get you a ton of crystals early on as well, as long as you're actually completing the challenges. So don't forget to do these. I can't believe how embarrassing it is. I haven't done any forts yet. I've been very busy. Leave me alone. Not me exposing myself in a video, but anyway, this is another great value if you are a low spender. All right, anyway guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you found this helpful when it comes to learning a little bit more about crystal tech and what your early priorities should be in KVK, and hopefully I've clarified why some of these researches are priority over others. If you made it to the end of the video, consider dropping a thumbs up on it. It really helps out that channel a ton. And if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to be notified the next time I upload a Rise of Kingdoms video. Comment down below any other tips that you guys have for crystal tech. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.